Sydney Sweeney and the manufactured sex symbol. As we all know, sex sells, and Hollywood has spent decades marketing different actresses to the public as aspirational yet attainable fantasies. Marilyn Monroe, Jane Mansfield, Farrah Fawcett, Pamela Anderson, Angelina Jolie, Halle Berry, Megan Fox, the list goes on. But the thing about sex symbols is that they aren't born, they're made. And in the 2020s, Sydney Sweeney seems to be the latest actress Hollywood is pushing as the next bombshell. The only problem? People don't seem entirely sold on the idea. A big part of stardom isn't just the work you're putting out, it's your persona. And every celebrity has developed a different association, either deliberately or by accident. Jennifer Garner is the girl next door. Jason Statham is the manly man. Ayo Edebiri is the quirky goofball. Joaquin Phoenix is a wild card. And Adam Sandler is the chill dad who has Netflix fund his vacations. The reception to this public image can shift over time, going through cycles of approval and disapproval, which can actually have a huge impact on a celebrity's success. It's important to remember that the film industry runs on ticket sales, and Hollywood knows that people are way more likely to watch your movie if they actually like you, or at the very least, are interested in you. Sydney Sweeney rose to prominence on the 2019 TV series Euphoria, where she played high schooler Cassie Howard. The character equates her self-worth to how men treat her, and because of her insecurities and traumatic family history, she turns to promiscuity and hypersexualization as a coping mechanism, making her one of the show's numerous tragic characters. Although Sydney's performance drew critical acclaim, a lot of people paid more attention to something else, her body, and how much of it was on display. Sydney has addressed this disconnect herself, saying, quote, "I think it's funny how much people seem to focus on the nudity when that's just a fragment of her storyline. You see the parallels of what Cassie's world does to her, how they sexualize her, and it's supposed to be a lesson to the world of how that can happen to a girl. And then I see the press and people doing that to me." She brings up a good point, as we've seen time and time again how actresses are treated as objects for the public to say and do what they want with. They can never complain about their coworkers, otherwise they're ungrateful bitches. If their private photos get leaked, then they deserved it for being so slutty. If they laugh too much around their male co-stars, they must be sleeping together. And if they don't look exactly like they do on the red carpet, they're catfishes. It's a strangely entitled mindset that insists that because these women are public figures, they aren't deserving of basic human decency. Now, where things get tricky with Sydney Sweeney is how mixed the messaging is when it comes to her sexuality. On one hand, she clearly wants to be recognized for her work and be seen as more than a pair of tits. But on the other hand, she and her team seem fully committed to leaning into a male-focused image, without any real attempt to subvert the trope or reclaim the narrative.
Weirdly, a lot of my fans are men.
I wonder why.
Take, for instance, her stint hosting SNL, where almost every single skit made a mention of her boobs. Now, I expected those sorts of jokes to make an appearance, but it wound up feeling like they didn't know what else to do with her. And with the show repeatedly using her body as a form of advertising, it felt strangely exploitative. Now, admittedly, SNL has a habit of doing this anytime there's a bombshell on set. Just look at Pamela Anderson, Megan Fox, and Margot Robbie's times hosting, which all featured the same "she's so sexy" punchline over and over again. But in these cases, there was usually some small critique of the public's fixation on their appearance, whereas in Sydney Sweeney's case, it was constant agreement. According to Bowen Yang, Sydney actually asked for the boob-focused jokes herself, saying that she already understood how she was being perceived by the world and figured she might as well embrace it. Now, I think that actresses should be able to present themselves however the hell they want to. But with Sydney, it sometimes feels like she's sexy because it sells, not because she actually wants to be.
Hey, eyes up here.
You might remember that back in 2022, she went viral after telling The Hollywood Reporter that acting alone wasn't enough to pay the bills, and that she was more than happy to take every endorsement she could get. And wow, did she mean it. Just to put it into perspective, in the last 3 years, she's worked with Armani Beauty, Miu Miu, Cotton On, Dr. Squatch, Frankie's Bikinis, Ford, Hey Dude, American Eagle, Laneige, Samsung, Baskin Robbins, Jimmy Choo, Bai, and probably a few others that I've forgotten about. While celebrity brand deals are nothing new, the sheer variety of collaborations that Sydney has participated in has created a rather confusing public image. Is she the glamorous actress walking around in stilettos and carrying around a $3,000 purse? Or is she the girl next door who fixes up trucks in overalls while eating ice cream and sandwiches? Or is she the sex kitten who flaunts her chest while also pawning soap made with her actual bathwater? Sure, real people are multifaceted, and I don't expect her to conform to a single personality type. But from a marketing perspective, a celebrity's public persona works best when it tells a clear story, and Sydney Sweeney doesn't have one. Compare that to her fellow Euphoria co-star Zendaya, who has recently been named the face of Bulgari, Valentino, Louis Vuitton, and Lancôme. These brands all exist in the luxury space, thereby reinforcing her sophisticated, selective image, which has been reiterated in other aspects of her public image time and time again. Even Zendaya's most accessible brand deal, Smartwater, still has more name recognition than Sydney's beverage equivalent. This careful cultivation is how Zendaya has managed to become such a huge name in the industry despite having fewer film credits than her peers, which is why people have no trouble calling her an it girl. Now, I'm by no means pitting the two against one another and saying that they need to have the exact same career progression, but rather than trying to be different, it feels like Sydney doesn't know what direction to go in at all, which winds up making her feel like a random influencer rather than one of Hollywood's hottest young stars. The only sort of through line that I could find in all of her brand endorsements has less to do with the products themselves and more to do with how she's presented while marketing them. They dress her in skimpy clothing, linger on her body parts, and make heavy-handed sexual innuendos. Now, I usually appreciate this sort of tongue-in-cheek humor, but since Sydney never feels committed to the bit, it usually falls flat. Now, part of me does wonder if that's just because her comedy chops aren't quite there yet, or maybe it's because her heart just isn't in it. Sabrina Carpenter has actually been doing a similar bombshell gimmick recently, but she's so over the top with her depiction of it that it reads less as sexy and more as funny, like the difference between Fran Fine and CJ Parker. Now, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way to be sexy, but it's no surprise that the reaction to Sydney has been so mixed when she's gone in a direction that seems geared towards only one specific audience, a male one. Many of Sydney's brand deals have caused quite a stir online because of their subject matter, and at this point, I think that might be what they're hiring her for. Because in an era where going viral is the most important thing, what could be an easier way to get people talking about your product than with a slightly risque ad featuring a controversial actress? While I understand how that strategy benefits the brand in question, I have to wonder what it'll mean for Sydney's career in the long run. Sure, she's bringing in the big bucks now, but what about in 5 or 10 years from now? Does she want to be remembered as the bathwater girl? If there's a time for her to be selective, it's now, when her career is on the up and up and she's able to build the reputation that she actually wants. What I find even more jarring about Sydney's hypersexual branding is how different it is from her movie roles. Sure, she takes off her clothing a good amount, but she rarely plays the sexy bombshell. Instead, she opts for character-driven dramas and thrillers where she kills bad guys, escapes from cults, and overcomes trauma. Where is all that fuck you energy in real life? Considering she's mostly been in indie projects that haven't made a lot of noise, the average person doesn't have much experience with her on screen. And I worry that these marketing gimmicks, if we can call them that, will wind up distracting from her actual work, and she'll just become that actress with the big boobs, instead of someone who is genuinely very talented. Now, whether or not you like Sydney's current image, it doesn't change the fact that the way she's been treated by the public is simply appalling. She's called a slut, a pick-me, a butterface, an airhead, and a lot of people have said she deserves it because of her career and appearance. Do I personally want to buy what she's selling? No. But that doesn't mean I have any less respect for her as a person, and you shouldn't either. What are your thoughts on Sydney Sweeney? I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye!